let's go ahead and start talking about if big dogs are profitable. So basically, long story short, a lot of my coaching clients will tell me things like, I need to increase my prices, and they'll want to have their Shih Tzu Yorkie price at $60 or $100. But then when I say, okay, well, how much is a doodle then? A 75-pound doodle, and they'll be like, oh, it's like 125. And I'm like, well, if a Shih Tzu takes me an hour and a doodle takes me 2, then why would the doodle be cheaper compared to the doodle? Let me go ahead and explain this with some numbers. Now, all right, so here we go. Let's talk about the breed of dogs we're going to look at: a Yorkie, a Shih Tzu, a Pug, a Golden, a Doodle, and a Bernese Mountain Dog. So when I look at how much time and energy it will take me to groom each of these dogs. So a Yorkie realistically is going to take me, I would say 0.75 of an hour, at best an hour. Now that is a bath, blow dry, and haircut. Yorkies really don't take long, especially if you're going to do something like using a hair vac, where I'm just going to like literally do a quick cut, a little bit of scissoring, and be done. I would call a Shih Tzu an hour. Now, pugs are kind of back and forth. I was talking to somebody about this. Because to do a good pug bath and deshed, I would still say between 0.75 to an hour. Because, pugs do not like their nails trimmed. They are brachycephalic, so their face is all pushed in. They have a lot more health issues than a lot of breed of dog. So for me, when I think about a pug, that pug should still take me 45 minutes. Now, when I think about a golden retriever, it does depend upon what you're doing with that golden retriever, how often it's groomed, how big it is, how much coat it has. So let's assume this golden is going to take me realistically 1.5 on the low end and 2 hours on the high end. So I'm also going to add in here, on the high end, a Yorkie will take an hour. On the high end, a Shih Tzu could take me an hour and a half. And on the high end, a Pug could take me about an hour. So I would say a doodle, unless if it is the unicorn doodle, which they do exist, doodles take a minimum, if you were to do the dog start to finish, of 2 hours. Now, I think that a doodle taking 2 hours, somebody might say, oh, well, this doodle is not going to take that long. The doodle is going to take less time, etc. Well, I have a standard poodle who is 45 pounds, and if I basically shave her bald and bathe and blow dry her and scissor her up, it takes me a minimum of 2 hours. Unless if you are a power groomer or that unicorn groomer, again, it's going to take you at least 2 hours to groom that doodle. So on the high end, I would say 3 hours. Now again, that doodle could be more, if it's crazy, but let's just assume 3 hours. Bernese Mountain Dog, on the low end, just getting a bath, I would say 2 hours. On the high end, I would say 3. Now, obviously, we're going to be using things like different products that make this go faster. We're going to use high-end blow dryers. We're going to use bathing systems. We're going to be using kennel dryers. We're going to be using all of these different tactics to make this groom go by faster. But just because things are going faster doesn't mean that we charge less. Too often, you guys will tell me things like, yeah, but then I just put it in the kennel dryer. Well, I want you, when you're making your pricing, to base your money upon the potential of your bather quitting, your bathing system dying, your kennel dryer shitting the bed. Okay, guys? I want you to begin there, because if you begin there, what that's going to do is allow you that if anything ever goes wrong and you don't have the money to immediately replace your equipment, yes, it's going to require more work, but you're going to have money to go ahead and replace those things. And or you're going to have money to buy those things. With these times, I want to think about how much I would charge. So if I'm on the low end, let's say if I'm in a shop and I'm like, oh, we're not fancy. We charge $40 for a Yorkie, $50 for a Shih Tzu, $30 for a Pug. I've heard of something, let's say $55 for a Golden, $100 for a Doodle, which even then, I feel like that person would, if that person's charging $55 for a Golden, they're probably charging $75 for a Doodle, and they're probably charging $85 for a Bernese Mountain Dog. Now, part of me wants to just scream and kick and all of that, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use math instead of emotions to break down how much this is going to cost. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking this amount And I'm going to divide it by how much we are earning an hour. So same thing, equals this. So then this would be divided by, right? So on this example, so I want to point out to you guys that I'm using really low numbers at first, but then I'm going to switch and use more expensive numbers in a minute. This Yorkie, you're like, okay, I'm charging $40 and it takes 45 minutes. So that's $53 an hour. Not too terrible, right? Shih Tzu, $50 an hour. Not too terrible, right? Pug, $40 an hour. Not too bad. But then when we come down to our Goldens, our Doodles, and our Bernese Mountain Dogs, now I personally do not feel like this amount of time is an unreasonable amount of time for these breeds of dogs. The problem becomes with the price point. Because as you can see, you're actually losing money by grooming these much larger dogs. Now, if I change this to 65, you can see that I'm still making less per hour than I am on the Yorkie. How about at $75 an hour? I'm sorry, $75 a groom. Now I'm basically making the same as I was on a Shih Tzu. But that's still not good because if you can see, the Shih Tzu is about $50 an hour. And with this dog being $75 for the 1.5 hours, but I'm not taking into account how much more time that dog takes in the sense that it's going to be more physically demanding. I'm probably going to need, if you don't want to blow out your back or your bather's back, you're going to want to have somebody help you carry the dog into the tub. So 2 people lifting the dog. Now there are grooming tables and grooming setups that make putting a dog in the tub easier. But guess what? That costs money. So instead of buying a cheap small table, not that you should buy cheap stuff, but if you wanted to buy cheap stuff, it'd be a lot easier to buy cheap things if you only did small dogs. By doing this larger dog, you need a either bigger table to be able to go all the way down, put the Golden on, lift it up, roll it to the tub, put the dog in the tub if you're going to be by yourself, or you're going to have to hire a second person. And that second person will have to help you put it into the tub, take it out of the tub, put it on the table if you don't have the nice tables that go all the way down or all the way up. And if that dog is a complete nutter fish, you know, when the one who do this, you might need a second person just to keep the dog still enough to be able to do something. Now, you could definitely need that with a smaller dog, but a smaller dog is not going to blow your back out, blow your groomer's back out. It's not going to Superman off the table. And for those of you that don't know, it's like, pew! Now, there are so many great products designed to stop these things from happening. I'm a big fan of Hanvee, as all of you guys know. They have the lip system, which is an arm built into the table. And they have a big, I think it's called a big boy or big dog table, and it goes all the way down. It's amazing. It's worth every penny. That said, those tables are not cheap. And if you're going to invest in that, you have to earn more than you would doing a Shih Tzu and a Yorkie. At what point do I earn more doing a Golden than a Yorkie? Let's see, 85. That should be about right. So until I hit 85 for an hour and a half worth of work on a Golden, I really don't touch the positive of the Yorkie. Now, I am making more than I'm making a Shih Tzu. But let me ask you guys, and everyone is different, but most groomers find doing 2 Shih Tzus, bath and haircuts, and this $50 haircut, I would assume, is a really simple, easy Shih Tzu, bath, 5-strip, you know, short, round teddy bear face, nothing, you know, no style. This is just basically the dog looks clean and cute and nothing crazy. You know, if you're going to take more than an hour, obviously this dog would need to be more. So here we go. We would have $50.56. This dog really needs to be even more than that because not only is this dog going to take more effort than 2 Shih Tzus, it needs more equipment, more product, more everything. So if I put this dog at $100, that is still only $66.67 an hour. That Shih Tzu is only $16 less an hour. Now, I think that's a pretty fair amount on these ratios. But I also want to point out here that this Doodle at $75, which I'm always shocked at how many people have their Doodles at $75. Wherever you are, your mini Doodles even should be $100. I don't care where you are or what you're doing. Let's look at this Doodle that takes 2 hours. So you're like, oh, the Shih Tzu takes 1 hour and the Doodle takes 2. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, this would be apples to apples if this 2-hour Doodle was not insane or matted. Now, again, we're going to take the 3 hours assuming the dog is matted. But there are very, very few Doodles that are as simple as a Shih Tzu or a Yorkie. And some of you guys hate grooming Yorkies, and that's okay. And some of you guys hate grooming Shih Tzus, and that's okay. But as a breed, I would say that Yorkies and Shih Tzus are some of the easiest dogs to groom. I'm not talking about full-coated Yorkies. I'm not talking about full-coated Shih Tzus. I'm talking about people who want like a 4-blade all over, nothing scissored, just get it. I mean, you have to scissor to, clean the lines up and everything, but nothing crazy. Those dogs don't take a lot of time. And honestly, the average bather who's doing a good job can do nails, ears, bathe, and get it mostly blow dried within 15 to 20 minutes. So those dogs are fairly simple and easy. Versus the Doodle, really, if you're going to do even a decent haircut, even if you're doing a 4 all over on a Doodle, it still requires a significant more time in the bath, and it requires a significant more amount of time blow drying. I also can't hand the average Doodle to a bather who just started. I probably can hand a Yorkie or a Shih Tzu to a bather brusher who's been there less than 30 days. But to hand them a Doodle, I have to assess the coat. And even at a 1/2 inch, I have seen whip knots in Doodle coats because they tend to be cottony, unpredictable, you never know. And because of that, they require more skill and more sanity. So let's say this Doodle, instead of being $50, is $150. That's $75 an hour. That's not bad. So let's go ahead and talk about our Bernese Mountain Dog friend here. This dog is probably 85 to 100 pounds. He is probably not groomed every 4 weeks. Probably a big baby. Everyone I've ever groomed is just the sweetest thing, but they act like they're gonna die. And they don't realize how big they are. So if we put Jake, the Bernese Mountain Dog, who's 85 to 100 pounds, at $85, we are making basically what we're making to do a pug per hour. I don't know about you, but give me 2 pugs over 1 Bernese Mountain Dog. So let's figure out how, again, we can get this higher hourly rate. So if I do $150, I am again at the $75 per hour. Now, $75 per hour seems like a pretty reasonable amount of money, right? I mean, if I said to you, hey, would you want to make $75 an hour? You'd be like, hell yeah. Except here's what you guys are forgetting. This is gross profit. What gross profit is think about if I'm boiling spaghetti and it's the spaghetti in the water. What we need to do is get net profit, which is where we dump all the water out. So you think you have all this stuff. If I lift a bowl of pasta with water, feels really heavy. If I dump out the water, there's a lot less. Now, you've heard me before talk about paying hourly. We need to keep all payroll under 30%. And this is where I get myself into trouble, because when I talk about to my coaching clients and everybody else about paying hourly, they tell me they need to be paid $60 an hour, $30 an hour. No groomer will work under $20 an hour. So let's say this groomer can groom 1 dog an hour, right? So 1 Shih Tzu, 1 Yorkie. So what I'm going to do right here, 0.3. So 30%. So this groomer who's going to groom, let's say 8 dogs in 8 hours. So if I want to keep this, so this is $40 per Yorkie per hour. And then if I want to pay that groomer 30%, now that is the max payroll that I can do, right? Because I want to keep under 30%. So that is if I have a bather, a groomer, and a receptionist. That's not a whole hell of a lot of money left there. So again, here you go. You think pug, $30 seems fair. Oh, $40 an hour, $12 an hour to pay your staff. A lot of times you guys talk about, oh, as a groomer, I deserve, right? Well, if I'm charging $30 an hour, $30 for a pug that takes about 45 minutes, even if the dog took us, let's just use the example of, let's pretend this dog is going to take us 30 minutes, right? So let's do 0.5. That is still only $18 an hour at 30%. That's insane, okay? So let's go back to the hourly rate that we had the big dogs at originally. So let's look at this big dog. Remember this golden, we had it what? I think I could even be generous and do 65. It's $13 an hour that I could pay someone to wrangle that giant, dirty golden. Remember this doodle, let's be generous, let's call it $75. $11.25. This Bernese Mountain Dog, let's call it $85. I see $85 all the time for these Bernese Mountain Dogs, $12.75. So here's the deal. With these big dogs, at the normal rates that you guys are at, I keep seeing these Shih Tzu and Yorkies at $40, $50, and then the Golden and the Doodle at $75. Now, if I want to get my employee up to $20 an hour, let's start playing with that. If I do $50, they're at $20 an hour. This Shih Tzu is going to take longer, so let's try it 60. 18. Okay, what about 65? Almost there, guys, right? Now, we can do like, let's do 67. Let's see how close. I think that's as close as we're going to get. Let's try 66.5. No, we got to go 67, man. There you go. That's as close as we're going to get to $20 an hour on this Shih Tzu. Now to get this pug up, right? Let's try 45. Well, that's actually damn good. But we also made him there. So let's put 0.75 again. Because I don't honestly believe you can get a pug done in 30 minutes without something going wrong. So at 45, we're still at $18 an hour. So let's try 50. Boom. And I know you can see that up top, but I wanted to be dramatic. So let me be dramatic. All right. So here we are at $20 an hour. Now, I don't know about you, but in order for me to be grooming these big dogs, I want more than I would get making these Shih Tzus, right? So going back. So to do these big dogs, I would like more money, please. So if I'm doing these $65, all right, so let's try $100. There we go. So in order to pay my groomer a minimum of $20 an hour, my golden retriever has to be at least at $100. How about my doodle? Right? You're like, oh, this should be $150. But you believe it or not, for whatever reason that is, that's going to go up. So let's do 145. Oh man, I love playing like the math game. 135? Now, I don't actually know why that is. That's very interesting to me that this at 1.5 hours, C8, yeah. Boom. Now again, I don't know about you, but I love you guys all as groomers. We poo-poo $20 an hour. So, we're like, no, I just want to groom. I want a bather and a receptionist. Well, we just saw at a Shih Tzu at $67. There is a total hourly rate available at that 30% to pay $20 an hour. So if you are a groomer, you want to make you want to make $20 and you want a bather and you want a receptionist. Well, let's say for easy math, you're getting 20, your bather's getting 10, and your receptionist getting 10. That's $40 an hour. Let's go ahead and look at how much that would be for our Yorkie, and then look at our Doodle and bigger dogs. So you'd have to have a Yorkie at $100. A Shih Tzu would need to be $135. And our pug would need to be there. Now our golden, again, you want a groomer at 20, a bather, and a receptionist. I know, I'm trying to like do the math in my brain. I'm like, that should be like $270. So as you can see, to get that $40 an hour rate, which is $10 for a receptionist, $10 for a bather, and that. Now, in theory, you'd have other groomers doing other dogs, but that is, a different exercise completely. But I want you to look at these for a second. And as you can see, a Yorkie's 100, a Pug's 100, and a Shih Tzu's 135. Now, I actually have several mobile clients whose small dog prices, Pugs, Shih Tzus, Yorkies, are between $100 and $120. That is not unheard of in the mobile world. I do see there are some salons, these high-end salons, moving towards the $100 mark. And a lot of that comes down to having excellent customer service. What I want you to notice is all these groomers saying that they're making, $30, $40 an hour. You would have to charge a Shih Tzu and get a Shih Tzu done every single hour in order to pay yourself after taxes, after overhead, after being able to save up money to get 40 bucks an hour. Now, on the flip side, I don't know many grooming salons that are charging, or mobiles, let's be honest, mobiles charging Goldens 200, Doodles 270, Bernese Mountain Dogs 270. And again, this financial equivalent for this Golden is 2 Yorkies. And again, I know everyone has preferences if they like big dogs or little dogs. But just from a logistics standpoint, grooming 2 Yorkies is significantly less work on the body, the equipment, and let's be honest, like on everything. It's on your body, on the equipment. You're going to use less shampoo. You're going to use less water. And if my option was doing 2 Yorkies or 1 Golden, I would obviously pick 2 Yorkies. For these 3 dogs, not only are we not really seeing these prices in shops or mobiles, we're also not including the extra time and energy it takes to do these dogs because of cleanup, because of the potential of throwing your groomers back out, the potential need for more than 1 groomer. Now what I'm going to do really quick is, now that we worked with these hours, I'm going to pull these in. So if this dog took an hour, this is the 1.5 one. And the reason I bring up the bath dogs and the groom dogs is because all too often, for some unknown reason, somebody will tell me, they'll be like, yeah, I have like a Golden is this price, a Doodle is this price, and a Bernese Mountain Dog is this price. And I'm like, well, they basically take the same amount of time. It's different physical labor. If you said to me, how many St. Bernards could I do a day? I would say 2. And that was it, doing nothing else, 2 St. Bernards. I could do 2 St. Bernards and I'd be hurting. I could do 5 Shih Tzus and not be hurting. I could probably do 5 Yorkies and it would be a breeze. I mean, I could do 7 to 8 pugs. As far as Goldens go, I probably couldn't do, if you gave me 2 or 3 Goldens, that's all I could physically do. My body would just hurt. Doodles, 2. So going back to our little thing. So if you have on the high end a Yorkie who takes an hour, that would be a $30 hourly rate at $100. Most of your shops right now are doing 60. You're doing 60 whether it's a Yorkie or a Shih Tzu. You're doing, I've seen 35 as the average pug price. Now these are not mobile prices, these are shop prices. I see the average Golden at around $75, the average Doodle at $100, average Bernese Mountain Dog at $85. So on the high end, you would have to pay your bather to do a Bernese Mountain Dog $8.50, which is basically minimum wage for the country at this point. Most states, you could not do that, right? So if you're a groomer and you want to chart, and you say you want to hire your groomer at $20 an hour, you have to make sure that actually ends up happening. So again, let's look at this Bernese Mountain Dog. If I want to pay, now again, this is a groomer with no baser and no receptionist, because we have to keep all payroll under 30%. Let's try to figure out what that is. It's just the groomer grooming this dog for 3 hours to make $20 an hour. So let's play some. Let's do 200. Let's see what that brings us to. So this dog has to be $200 in order for me to pay my groomer 20 bucks an hour. And let me tell you something. As somebody who's been a groomer for long enough, I really wouldn't want to get paid $20 an hour to wrestle with a Bernese Mountain Dog. What would I need to charge to make this pug $20 an hour? So this is like pug from hell. So this is Satan pug. So Satan pug, we need to be around $67 to make $20. So if you asked me, would I rather do 3 Satan pugs or 1 Bernese Mountain Dog? At the same time, energy-wise, because with the Bernese Mountain Dog and the 3 pugs, if they're both, out of control, because this Bernese Mountain Dog is a 3-hour Bernese Mountain Dog, not a 2-hour Bernese Mountain Dog. So it was either crazy or super freaking impacted. And I had to sit there and blow dry the dog for like an hour. So either way, I'm probably going to need a second hand, but I don't have a second hand because I want to be paid $20 an hour. Womp, womp, womp. Same thing with our Shih Tzu. What do we need to be? So here's the thing, 20 bucks an hour to do a Yorkie, Shih Tzu, and Pug. I don't know about you guys. Now, there are people that really enjoy doing big dogs. They really enjoy doing big dogs. But I would say to you, Is it financially make sense? But when you look at these numbers, to get paid $20 an hour to do that, so then these Goldens have to be, the Golden, the Doodle, the Bernese Mountain Dog, has to be significantly more to make that $20 an hour. So that Golden would need to be around $135 to get the same pay. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm going to be wrestling dogs that weigh the same as I do, I would like more money. So let's get this up to around $230 because I want to include a bather. That way this bather and I can groom. This is at $200 for this Golden, would be $30 an hour. This is basically the equivalent of your Shih Tzu. If your Shih Tzu takes an hour, hour and a half, then your Golden, which takes an hour and a half, 2 hours, should be about $200 because you are wrestling with this giant dog. Even if this dog is the perfect angel, that dog is more likely to damage your equipment, cause more equipment, and potentially hurt you. It's just the honest truth. Now, I think it will be $300 for the Doodle. Yep, and our Bernese Mountain Dog. So most of us are really not going to want to charge a Doodle or a Bernese Mountain Dog $300. However, we might be more comfortable charging a Shih Tzu $100 or a Yorkie $67. And what I think is so interesting about that is that rarely do we make a good profit on big dogs. It's just very difficult to do. Could you realistically charge a Golden $200? Could you realistically charge a Doodle $300? Could you realistically charge a Bernese Mountain Dog $300? And maybe, maybe not. That's the tough part, is figuring out what that number is going to be and if it's still profitable. Because in this instance, I want to point out that the goal is to hire a bather, which is at $30 an hour. And that's at a $10 an hour bather. And how many of you guys will sit there and tell me, I wouldn't be a bather for $10 an hour? Okay, well, then how much would it cost to be an hourly groomer? And how much would it cost for a bather? Because if this owner, let's say you're saying, okay, I want a bather making $15 an hour. And as a groomer, I want to make, I'm not going to go crazy. Some of you guys say like $40 an hour, but let's not say that. Let's say you want to make, as a groomer, you want to make $30 an hour and you want to have a bather at $15 an hour. So that is $45 an hour. Let's go back to our little chart. So in order to make $30 an hour, now this is at 30%, which all 30%. What you're going to do is pay $30 an hour for you and $15 an hour for your bather. That would mean a Golden Retriever would be about $300, a Doodle would be $450, and a Bernese Mountain Dog would be $450. Let's figure out how to do that on the other end. Now, what's nice about these smaller breeds is you probably don't need a bather. And some of you guys are like, but I want to be there anyway. You'd probably be doing more dogs then. And so it's hard to go apples to oranges because adding a bather, you could probably add 3 to 5 small dogs, where if you do the big dogs, it's not going to be as profitable. But for shits and giggles, let's see what a Yorkie would be at $45 an hour. These are obviously very high numbers. Do I think that you could charge $225 for a Shih Tzu? Right now, no. I don't think that there is a market for a $225 Shih Tzu. Do I think $150 Yorkie is unreasonable? No. I have definitely seen multiple mobiles with a base price of $100, $120 with add-ons and upsells getting their average groom price to $130 or $150. Now that would be mobile. Mobile's always going to be higher. But, you know, to get $45 an hour, that's where they would have to be to keep all payroll under 30%. And if you're not sure why I keep bringing up the 30%, 50% gross profit when you're paying that, why it's bad for business is because in the pie, so 100% of the groom, 25%-ish is going to go to taxes. So if someone pays you 60% as a W-2, 25% goes to taxes. That then equals 85%, which leaves them 15% to pay their overhead, to pay for supplies, to pay for all of that. That's not a lot of money at all. At 30%, and they add 25% for taxes, that's 50%. Then another 20 to 30% will go to overhead. And then whatever is left is paid to the business owner for taking the risk of being a business owner. I want you guys to go ahead and check out one of my other shows called Why 50% is Bad for Business. And I break down all of this similar to this one. you are more likely to get someone at $150 for a Yorkie than you are to get someone for $450 for a Doodle. And when you figure out, the average price for a Doodle is about $100, $125, it's no wonder that people are getting frustrated that they're not making a lot of money. Doodles take a lot more time and a lot more energy. And as you can see, paying someone 30%, and this is for a bather, like 30% to cover everyone. If this Doodle takes you 3 hours, you're making $12.50. And if your minimum wage is $15, you're actually losing money. Even at 2 hours, you're still only making $18.75. Let's make this $150. You're again making $22.50. And you're more likely to blow your back off. You're more likely to have all of these problems. So that's where I want to warn you guys, are big dogs profitable if you charge appropriately? But most of you guys do not realize how much potential damage you are doing to your business by not charging large dogs accordingly. Like I said, it's easier to charge small dogs more because it's easier to say it's $100 for a Yorkie, it's $100 for a Shih Tzu, than it is to say it's $450 for your Doodle. So if you have not already, consider joining my free Facebook group called Savvy Pet Professionals. I love talking to you guys. I really appreciate it. I cannot wait to talk to you next week. Bye guys. Happy grooming.